Something huge is happening right now, and almost nobody is talking about it. From a secret Ukraine-Russia peace deal to the Fed preparing massive rate cuts, the global markets are about to change completely. Here what you need to keep eye on, especially as a crypto trader. According to ABC News, Ukraine officials agree to the President Trump peace deal. This is massive.
I always call it massive.
Terms have been agreed to, and the Ukrainians want Zelensky to head to the United States. The plan was worked out in secret talks in Geneva and Abu Dhabi. The U.S. team removed demands about limiting Ukraine's army and giving amnesty to Russian forces. The original U.S. peace proposal had 28 points. 2 of those points were very unpopular with Ukraine. Those 2 are limits on the future size and weapons of Ukraine's army. Ukraine would not be allowed to have a big or modern military after the war, and legal forgiveness for Russian soldiers and officials, even for possible war crimes. Ukraine would have to promise not to prosecute them. Ukraine refused to accept those 2 demands. So the U.S. negotiators rewrote the plan. They removed those 2 conditions completely. The list went from 28 points down to 19 points. That's why Ukraine now says yes to the main, core parts of the deal, because the most unacceptable parts were taken out. Zelensky says it's progress, but not finished yet, and Russia hasn't replied. In October, Donald Trump's special envoy, Steve Witkoff, called a top aide to Vladimir Putin, Yuri Ushakov. He suggested a way to stop the fighting in Ukraine, using the recent Gaza ceasefire as a model. He also asked Russia to publicly say nice things about Trump's efforts to make peace before Ukrainian President Zelensky visited the U.S. This call was secret at first, but Bloomberg got the full transcript and published it yesterday. The plan they discussed is a 28-point peace deal between the U.S. and Russia, but Ukraine and Europe were not included in these early talks. So basically, Trump's team was talking directly to Russia behind Ukraine's back, trying to make a quick deal to end the war. The U.S. government just released PPI data for September 2025. PPI stands for Producer Price Index, which is a measure of rising prices or inflation that businesses face when buying supplies. PPI 2.7%, slightly higher than expected. Core PPI 2.6% better than expected. PPI excluding energy 2.6% better than expected. The good part is that almost everything that beat expectations came in lower than predicted, which means inflation is cooling faster than thought. Lower inflation is a win for the economy. Why this matters for inflation and energy. Energy prices like oil and gas are dropping. Ukraine has agreed to a peace deal, which could lower energy costs even more worldwide. Economists say tariffs aren't causing big inflation spikes. This can be biased toward Trump, but the numbers show those aren't lies. Inflation could soon hit the Federal Reserve's 2% target. The Truflation Index, a real-time inflation tracker, already shows U.S. inflation cooling. Unemployment is high. More people are out of work, which slows the economy. The Federal Reserve wants low inflation and low unemployment. With inflation dropping, but jobs weak, they have limited choices. Because jobs are now the bigger problem. The Fed is expected to cut interest rates a lot more and make borrowing cheap again. Maybe even print again later and move to quantitative easing. The rate cuts have already begun. Quantitative tightening ends on December 1st. When the Fed floods the system with cheap money, risky assets like stocks and crypto boom first. Crypto is often called the fastest horse in these races. This data suggests easier money ahead, which has historically sent Bitcoin to the moon. Polymarket odds of a Fed rate cut in December have skyrocketed to 85% up from just 22% only 5 days ago. The U.S. Treasury Secretary Bessent just said, Trump will probably name a new person to replace Jerome Powell as head of the Federal Reserve before. But Powell's job doesn't officially end until May 2026. Trump wants someone new sooner who will follow his plans more closely, especially on interest rates. Texas just became the first U.S. state to officially buy Bitcoin for its treasury. They bought $10 million worth of Bitcoins. It's a big step towards states and countries holding Bitcoin. Like gold, fundamentally, everything is bullish, but always be ready for the worst. The market is changing fast. One video can save you from a bad trade. Make sure you're subscribed and click the bell icon so you don't miss updates.